Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the new year, and I'm going to be talking about the movies that I watched this January in 2026. The first movie I watched in theaters this year is Ikkis. Kicking off the new year with a good Hindi movie is an unexpected but welcome surprise. When I had first heard about this film, I wasn't really interested because Indian war films is a genre I don't entirely trust. And seeing Sriram Raghavan's name as director attached to this project was something I still remember blowing me away. It's his name alone that compelled me to watch the trailer, and it's solely for Sriram that I even decided to give this film a shot in theaters. Now, though the trailer had me intrigued, I was honestly worried about this film, worried that Sriram had potentially caved into the pressures of commercial Hindi cinema and made a jingoistic war movie. But after having seen the film, I don't even know why I doubted him, because this man just does not seem to miss. He knows exactly what he's doing, and that was a huge relief to realize when watching the movie. Ikkis is a war film that encourages brotherhood and pacifism amongst the neighboring countries of India and Pakistan, but it's one we definitely need right now. It's nowhere near a perfect movie, but it's still a very good one. Though I wish the direction was a little more specific, it did throw me into an interesting ethical spiral, because I was wondering that the added stylization and slickness of the war scenes surely might make the film more conventionally entertaining, but would instead end up glorifying the war, making it ethically problematic. Despite that, there are two specific moments here, one regarding a simple cut of an eye shot that merges past and present, and the other regarding the instant transition from day to night that just blew me away with its conceptualization and technical prowess. I wish the film had this level of creativity in its filmmaking without compromising on the film's very own ethical viewpoints. Jaideep Ahlawat and Dharmendra are both phenomenal in this movie. They both give my favorite performances and therefore carried the most moving portions of the film, for me at least. It's heartwarming and equally heartbreaking to see Dharmendra's final role in a movie be this moving and poignant. He was still a powerhouse at the age of 89. But my favorite thing about this movie is its progressive politics. It felt so nice to see a film that invites pacifism and empathy into the conversation once more. That doesn't blame an entire nation or religious community, but blames the system that allows for wars to happen in the first place. A film that encourages forgiveness and love instead of bigotry and hate. It's a pro-humanist movie first and a war movie second. I'm honestly so glad that the first movie I watched in the new year turned out to be this good. I guess I should not have doubted Sriram Raghavan, because even though he stepped outside his usual genre, he still managed to deliver a moving film that propagates communal love while highlighting the senselessness of war. Sirai. I honestly hadn't heard about this film until recently, but due to some positive reviews, I decided to give this film a shot and went into the movie theater completely blind, unaware of anything about the movie, and I walked out blown away and terribly moved. Sirai is an emotionally intense drama about many socially relevant themes such as police brutality, patriarchy, domestic abuse, rampant Islamophobia, and an unjust and corrupt justice system where the truth is the farthest thing from prevailing. These themes are not only explored with needed nuance but are sometimes deservedly hard-hitting with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. It's an extremely confident film that takes a little while to get going but makes it all feel worth it in the running minutes. It's got solid filmmaking backed up by beautiful writing that makes us empathize and root for its main characters. Through biting social commentary about how Muslims are discriminated against in this country, this film paints a moving portrait of a relationship between a cop and criminal. It's also an incredibly enraging film as it blatantly critiques the glaring flaws of the Indian justice system, where prejudice and bureaucracy take center stage instead of basic human empathy. But these themes are impactful because of the wonderful character writing and stellar direction that allows us to truly feel the detrimental effect of these social injustices. Aided by gut-wrenchingly fantastic performances that elevate the script, this film proved to be an intensely emotional roller coaster for me. Those final 20 minutes toyed with my emotions so strongly that I was very, very close to being a sobbing mess myself. The climax of the film left me angry, devastated, yet still hopeful for a better tomorrow, and it's exactly the kind of film we need to watch and support. It's so lovely to see a movie where violence against a minority community isn't glorified but criticized. A film that encourages generosity and empathy in a world that has no shortage of unending cruelty. A bold yet necessary film that invigorates the police to side with the poor and the oppressed. I was so incredibly moved by this wonderful piece of cinema, and I'm so glad that it did not end up going under my radar. It's daring and poignant in all the right ways. This genuinely turned out to be one of my favorite Indian films from last year. Parasakthi. Normally, I do not know if I would have watched this film, but seeing the title teaser on YouTube over a year ago definitely had me intrigued because it had something to do with student protests as one of its central themes. But the main reason I watched this film was because of its director, Sudha Kongara. I am a big fan of her other film, Surya Potru, and I believe in her capabilities as a solid filmmaker. And after all of its legal battles with the CBFC, I caught an afternoon showing of this opening day inside a completely packed hall, and sadly, I really wanted to love this film because there's a lot I admire about it, but it's an ambitious but bloated mess that I respect more than I loved. The filmmaking was surprisingly subpar. The action sequences primarily are janky with their staging and editing. It made me feel the needed emotions, but that was more due to the subject matter than the filmmaking. The villain and main characters were not fleshed out enough. The actors did most of the heavy lifting, but the lack of proper characterization was the glaring problem. Plus, the film is overly long with simply too much going on after a certain point. It also tends to focus on certain sections of the story, the love story, that enter generic territory and really aren't that interesting or push the characters and themes forward in a truly meaningful way. I find myself questioning whether the story needed to be told within this commercial template because a lot of the gravitas of the themes felt undermined because the narrative became more and more far-fetched as the minutes went by. A lot of the plot points are simply skipped over, or many major story beats occur so quickly that I did not get to process or feel much of anything, if I'm being honest. And that's a shame because I really like this director and the actors were all well cast. Plus, this is a film with tons of potential. It's politically charged, beaming with anger and justifiable resentment against a regime that's imposing another language onto an entire community alien to said language. Despite being heavy-handed at times, it's thematically relevant, aided by its electric filmmaking that's in service of this rebellion. It's a film about revolution and revolutionaries, a film about how the fascist government attempts to expand control through language and disguise it under quote-unquote national unity. It's a film about language and how it's inexplicably part of one's cultural identity and how it can be used as a means to oppress. It's a film about the personal toll it takes to be a rebel against the government. It's about a government that's not interested in the safety of its citizens, but in the safety of the privileged who are in power. The film is about all of this and more, and these are undeniably my favorite aspects of the film, which is why it's a real shame that the standard filmmaking and subpar characterization bring the impact of these themes down. It had tons of potential, but I just wish I connected with it more. It's incredibly ambitious and I respect the film for it, but given how I resonate with its politics, I really wish I loved it. Still, I am glad I watched this in a theater with a packed and excited audience that cheered and applauded in not just the hero entry scene, but also the impactful ending that celebrates Tamilian culture and the Tamil language itself. It's why I love going to the movies. The Chronology of Water. This is a fantastic movie, but also one that I will probably never see again. Or rather, one that I will maybe see again, but only after a couple of years. Because from frame one, this film is and remains to be an extremely difficult and uncomfortable watch, exploring dark subject matter such as abandonment, physical and substance abuse, among many more. The way this film is shot and structured is intentionally messy and disjointed, following a troubled protagonist who is the victim of an unforgiving world. The film does a great job of putting the audience in her shoes and truly making us uncomfortable in the process of empathizing with her. The way it invokes this discomfort is through its excellent filmmaking. I'm not kidding when I say that I was kind of blown away by how well made this thing is. Kristen Stewart knows how to fucking direct a movie. Through suffocatingly tight close-up shots and deliberately glitchy sound design, this film depicts an extremely honest and subjective perspective, one that's difficult to watch in moments. The sound of paper folding or a pencil lead breaking sounds and feels as violent as the physical abuse itself. It not only showcases the aftermath of an abusive childhood, but emphasizes the texture of the human body in all its beauty and ugliness. How it's a canvas to paint our lust and affection onto, but also ends up getting stained by the redness of blood. The film is shot on 16mm and looks breathtaking in every single frame. The tangibility of film is palpable throughout the movie and adds to the movie's physically visceral experience. And its use of ethereal music, editing, and fantastic sound design is wildly experimental. Through frequent flashing lights, burning film strips, muting the sound, dream sequences, abrupt halting of music, and cutting between past and present imbued me with a sense of haziness that made my theatrical experience trippy, for the lack of a better word. It's genuinely some of the most interesting and evocative filmmaking I have seen in a while, and it perfectly works with this fragmented narrative. Kristen Stewart is one of the few actor-turned-directors who managed to make an excellent directorial debut. Her direction injects this film with an electric energy that feels more agonizing than exciting. There wasn't a single second where I did not feel the vulnerability permeating through every frame. This movie feels incredibly raw and personal, and that's probably my favorite aspect of it. Though I wouldn't say I had fun, I was completely hooked throughout the film because it honestly felt like I was getting a sneak peek into someone's private life. But either way, I'm really glad this film turned out to be as great as I was hoping. A brutally uncomfortable yet moving portrait of someone who was unfortunately shaped by her parents' bad decisions. About someone who finds it difficult to break out of her past and lives on a painfully incoherent life with fleeting moments of joy. I cannot wait to see what Kristen does next because she has proven herself to be one of the more interesting voices in the directing realm. Aranyer Din Ratri, or Days and Nights in the Forest. For a Satyajit Ray movie, I am a little disappointed by this. I wouldn't call this a bad, good, or mediocre film, but it is thematically and narratively unfocused. It does have its merits. The filmmaking is undoubtedly stellar. It's got painterly shot compositions and inventive use of lighting that make us feel the drama needed for its respective scene. It's got a colorful cast of characters who are fun, funny, and equally problematic. And that's where some of my issues with the film lie. I would not say that this is a classist film, but its main characters are classist. And while I do not have a problem with such characters being shown in a film, I am a little disappointed by how the characters are handled. I did not see any real sense of change or catharsis within them. I feel like it had a few ideas about it, sure, but they did not particularly feel meaningful to me. And even with how it handles the indigenous characters was confusing to me. I found the depiction in poor taste, which I really did not expect to see for a Ray film. And I'm not saying that the native setting and the natives themselves weren't needed in the film, but their thematic inclusion and the way they were treated didn't make much sense to me. Again, I feel like the film had a few ideas on how to conclude the character arcs, but it did not come across clearly. I wouldn't call this a bad movie by any means. It's most certainly engaging to watch, with a lot of comedic moments from the main characters, even though I didn't like them as people. And I did not expect this to be a hangout movie at all, but it partly works as a slice of life drama. But I am just unsure as to what the film is really trying to say. Yes, it depicts class divide and misogyny, but it feels like it doesn't really take a stance on anything about it. I guess I understand what Ray was going for here, but it doesn't come together as coherently as many of his other films do. Which is a shame because I really wanted to love this. But irrespective of that, I certainly do not regret watching this in cinemas. Happy Patel Khatarnak Jasoos. This was so much fucking fun. Seriously, man, I had an absolute blast in the movie theater. A gleefully fun, funny, zany, and bizarre movie from top to bottom. I was laughing my ass off in that cinema hall, absolutely delighted by what I was witnessing. It's like our own Desi version of the Naked Gun franchise, where the film runs at the brisk pace of one hilarious gag per minute. There wasn't a single moment where I wasn't having the time of my life. It could have gotten tiring to stuff so many jokes throughout the movie, but never once did that happen. The jokes work for so many reasons. Obviously, there is the solid writing and performances, but it's also because of the stellar filmmaking that the jokes land so well. This is honestly a really well-made film. The short compositions, vibrantly exaggerated lighting, and use of music made this experience an absolute delight to watch. This is the kind of movie that knows exactly what it is and does not try to be something else. It's incredibly confident in its vision and committed to its silly tone, but it all mostly works. This is not a movie you take seriously, but this isn't some brain-dead comedy either. It's got incredibly clever jokes, well-timed cameos, meta-references that's specifically made for the Indian audience at this moment in time. It's very timely in that sense. The gags and references can only be understood by people of this current time, which is why I urge everyone to watch this movie right now. It broke my heart to see an empty theater walking into this. The marketing and promotions were actually so good that I really thought people would show up for this film. It would be a real damn shame if we let this movie flop because, gosh, do we need to learn to have some fun again. Even the 9 to 10 people in my showing were laughing out loud throughout the movie. This is a film to be watched in a packed hall because if it were to be the case, I'm sure that the entire cinema hall would be echoing with unanimous laughter. I won't forget just how much I was cackling at most of the gags. I honestly would have just loved to be part of this movie's production because it just looks like I would have had so much fun being there. It's so evidently a labor of love, gushing with so much sincerity in every frame and every joke. I wish this movie the world. I really hope that this movie does not become some unappreciated classic that grows a cult following in the future. I want people to show up in theaters now and give this movie the love that it deserves. And I know that 2026 has just begun, but I'm sure that this will be one of my favorite theatrical experiences of the year because this film is the definition of a rollicking time at the movies. 28 years later, The Bone Temple. I have been waiting for this movie ever since I saw last year's 28 Years Later end on a note that teases a sequel. It has been one of my most anticipated films of the year and it happens to be the earliest one in that list. I would be lying if I said that the expectations were not high. After all, it's the sequel to one of my favorite films of last year. The positive word of mouth had me optimistic, but I had to see it for myself to be sure. And yeah, everyone's right, this movie fucking rocks. Gosh, it's such a relief and a wonderful feeling to love this movie. I am so fucking glad this turned out great because I'd really been looking forward to this movie. I wanted it to be great and this was so much better. Nia DaCosta fucking delivered a knockout film and has made a place for herself in Garland's and Boyle's world. The filmmaking is spectacular yet very different from its prequel, and though I did miss a bit of the frantic energy of that film, I admire this film for doing its own thing. It still feels like it's part of that universe while crafting its own unique identity with its different filmmaking language and meaningful themes that it explores. Ray Fiennes and Jack O'Connell are fucking titans here. It's unbelievable how good they are. I also found it interesting that this film partly felt like a hangout movie, since the first one had to do the heavy lifting of reintroducing this world with a new set of characters. This film gets the luxury of just chilling out and slowly taking its time to explore its theme and characters while still being just under 2 hours. But that doesn't mean that the film does not have moments where it's just batshit insane, because there are such moments in the film and it's glorious to witness. There are some sequences here that I thought would play out a certain way when I saw the trailer, but completely surprised me by how differently it played out, but in a way that completely works for this movie. I never doubted Nia DaCosta to deliver, but man, am I blown away by what she's managed to capture here. She's carried the baton from Boyle in a beautiful way, because though this feels like a continuation of the story, it still feels like her movie, infusing it with her own voice. They entrusted this franchise with the right filmmaker. It looks like this movie has broken the January curse because one of the finest films of the year has released this early in the year, and I couldn't be more happier about it. I'm pretty sure that this film will stick around in my top 10 list at the end of the year, and it's wonderful to see such a great movie at the start of 2026. It's never not a wonderful feeling when a film you're incredibly excited for turns out to be just as good, if not better, than what you were expecting. It's easily the best movie of the year so far. I need the third film right fucking now. Marty Supreme. I have been excited for this film ever since I heard that there was a new Josh Safdie film being made all the way back in 2024, and I knew it was going to be great, but all the wonderful reviews and word of mouth only got me more excited than I already was. And after finally having seen it in theaters, I can confirm that yes, it really is phenomenal. But it's also one of the most unpredictable films that I have seen recently. On a technical level, it is really nothing short of fantastic. Darius Khondji's cinematography is breathtakingly gnarly and filthy. The great costume and production design did a great job of transporting me to the 50s, and Daniel Lopatton's ethereal yet energetic score is one for the ages. I'm definitely going to be listening to that obsessively from now on. But man, are the performances in this film truly extraordinary. Though it's primarily a Timothée Chalamet show, the supporting cast are all truly exceptional. But man, this is Timothy's movie. It's known that he is one of the finest actors working today, but it's glaringly apparent that this is incredibly personal to him. It's not just a great performance, but one that really feels truthful and deeply honest. Dare I say, it might even potentially be my favorite performance of his. This film has got the stuff that one would normally expect from a Safdie film, which means that it stars a determined yet morally questionable protagonist who faces insurmountable odds in the strangest of situations that go to wild and extreme extents. Plus, the use of constant overlapping dialogue of everyone speaking over each other used to induce anxiety within us is something that's prevalent here, just as it is in his his other films. But man, is this one of the most exhilarating movie experiences that I've had in a while. It's a film that gets running from the word go and never lets out. It's got some electric filmmaking that gives the film its relentlessly fiery spirit that refuses to bow down, much like its protagonist. I'm never going to forget that opening title sequence. It's just batshit nuts and ballsy in every sense of the word. I am so glad A24 backed something like this because this movie really is something special. I honestly feel honored to have witnessed this in cinemas. Oh, by the way, Timmy is definitely winning that Oscar, and I'm so happy for him. He deserves it. Chatha Pacha, the king of rowdies. Malayalam cinema does it again. This was expectedly tons of fun to watch. Loud and bright colors, along with stylish and zany filmmaking, made this an incredibly entertaining experience. The film is far from perfect. I wish I connected with the characters a lot more and had stronger emotional investment in the overall narrative. Unimportant subplots take center stage, the pacing feels rushed, and the conflicts are resolved way too easily. But I'll never forget just how exciting and riveting the wrestling sequences are. Yes, it's not very realistic, but the heightened reality of the film justifies the stylish tone. The stellar sound design and a banging background score only added to the visceral nature of the wrestling sequences. The editing can get a little janky at times, but the spectacular direction more than makes up for it with the jaw-dropping fight sequences. It's a lovely tribute to the kids who grew up loving WWE. I understand why this is getting such mixed reactions. This certainly could have been a lot more, but I still had a good time with the movies. And I ended the month with Send Help. My heroes Sam Raimi, Bill Pope, and Danny Elfman are all back and they knock it out of the park once again. This was a hilariously entertaining yet equally bloody, gory, and fucked up theatrical experience. It's dripping with style, flair, and the usual Raimi camp that I have missed. It's not at all perfect, but I had such a good time with the movies, man. The movie is mean, nasty, while also being a critique of toxic work culture and patriarchy amongst many other things. It's also got the usual Raimi-isms that I was expecting. There is a match cut here towards the end that had me gleefully cheering. I'm so glad to see Sam back at the director's chair. So yeah, these are all the movies that I watched this month in January. These are the list of the new 2026 releases ranked so far. And I wanted to try out this new segment towards the end of these videos where I talk about 4 categories. 1. New films that I did not watch. 2. Expected hits. 3. Pleasant surprises. And 4. Disappointments. For category number 1, I missed out on stuff like Song Sung Blue, The History of Sound, and Lalo. There were some poorly reviewed films or films that didn't interest me too much like Mercy, Primate, Shelter, Greenland 2, The Raja Saab, Border 2, etc. And there were some releases just towards the end of the month like Gandhi Talks, Maya Sabha, and Mardani 3 that I couldn't see, but I might catch up to some of those films towards the beginning of February. For category number 2, expected hits means films that I expected to be good and it turned out to be just as good, if not better. The films in this category are Chronology of Water, Happy Patel, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, Marty Supreme, and Send Help. For category number 3, pleasant surprises means films that came out of nowhere that I ended up liking, or films that I did not expect much from but turned out to be good. And the films in this category are Ikkis and Sirai. And for category number 4, the films that disappointed me were Parasakthi, Aranyer Din Ratri, and Chatha Pacha. I did not dislike any of these movies, but they did not live up to the expectations that I had for them. But yeah, overall, I still would say that this was a pretty good month at the movies for me. Usually January isn't considered the best month for cinema, but this one turned out to be just fine. Obviously bad movies also released that I haven't seen, but this was surprisingly not a dull month for me. I still am really excited to see what's in store for February. There are some releases that I'm truly excited about. But until then, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and support the channel in any way that you can. It means the world to me. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.